Welcome everyone to episode 34 of the Thundercraps podcast, where we forge through the shitstorm that was WCW Thunder. I am your host, Old Camel Breath, Josh Kaiser. And joining me today, an ungrateful, unappreciative Cyclops, Kyle Hoagland.
Oh, what's going on, everybody? You know what? This actually, this one actually had a couple goals. I think Heenan was definitely on his game on this one, so I'm looking forward to having a good time. We're talking about a Thunder that I feel like, man, this felt like no other Thunder that I think I remembered in the 34 episodes that we've watched.
Of all the Thunders, this was, this was a different one for different reasons. It wasn't I mean, I guess we could spoil it right now. It wasn't a good Thunder. It wasn't a bad Thunder. It wasn't an okay Thunder. It was a different Thunder.
It really was. It really, like, the formula that we, I think, we've either praised or made fun of or always wondered, like, they keep changing it. Like, this just was a real strange episode. And like I said, it might have something to do with the fact that obviously, and we'll talk more about it, I'm sure, that, you know, that they're continuing the trend of doing a live show and doing a non-live show, and I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but by the time we got done with this, by watching this show, when I got done watching the show, I just kind of sat here being like, wait a minute, I feel like part of the show was missing.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a weird one. Of course, this is Thunder 34. It is October 1st, 1998. We are less than a month away from Halloween Havoc at this point. To your point, we're back in Norfolk Arena here, Norfolk, Virginia, the Scope Arena, same place they recorded last week. So you figure recorded episode, get ready for a lot of Lenny Lane and company, right? So, but you don't just get that. You know, we open up, the commentary team is discussing that our main event. Of course, you remember Raven on the headset last week during the Canyon main event that turned out to be a total squash. Raven was talking about why didn't he get another chance at Golderg. Well, his chance is granted tonight, Kyle. So we got a main event, Raven versus Golderg for the world title. And on paper, that sounds pretty good. Of course, we're pushing Golderg versus DDP at Halloween Havoc. So it leads me to believe that Goldberg's not going to lose the streak, drop the title on a pre-taped episode of Thunder.
No, they spent too much money on shitty promos between DDP and Goldberg to let that go away. And I'm honest to God, like, if anyone thought that, oh yeah, let's just put Raven and DDP and Halloween Havoc over Goldberg, I mean, that's a complete fatal guffaw if you ever did anything like that. But yeah, it's the kiss of death for Raven. We all know what's going to happen tonight.
We do, but they do let us know. I mean, it is a world title on Thunder. Of course, Ravens rules, so anything could happen. Maybe Goldberg is going to lose this one.
I mean, they kept on mentioning the whole, like, you know, yeah, we're all getting ready for, you know, DDP versus Goldberg, but don't you count Raven out. I'm like, well, I think we are.
I think we all are. Though that challenger DDP is in our opening bout. Of course, he'll be wrestling Lodi because that's a great opening bout when you got Diamond Dallas Page in here. We do get our first sign of the night, and surprisingly, there was a lot of signs of the night for a show that we watched last week. So I don't know if I just wasn't paying close enough attention last week, or maybe they just got better camera angles. I'm not sure. Our first sign, though, is keep the push on Kidman. So it's good to see that the Norfolk crowd is behind Kidman, the Cruiserweight champion, now that he's outside of the flock. And like I said, Lodi, of course, speaking of the flock, last week he was blaming Saturn for ruining his life. Now he's blaming DDP for bringing Saturn to WCW, and of course Saturn disbanded the flock, which thus makes Lodi worthless.
So that means next week Lodi will be wrestling Diamond Dallas Page's father, who helped birth DDP, and if it wasn't for that, then he wouldn't have brought in Saturn, and because of that, Saturn wouldn't have broken up the flock. Exactly.
As for this match, Diamond Cutter squash, 1 3/4 star for me. I didn't even enjoy it for a squash match, to be honest.
So you know what? As I started kind of skimming through the notes, I have a feeling you and I are going to have some differing opinions about this show.
We do, for sure.
I gave this 2 stars. I just liked it because DDP needed to be in the ring. It's been a while. I don't remember. I really had a hard time remembering last time he's really. I think maybe since World War III. I don't know if he's even been on TV wrestling. And so it was good to have him on, even if it's with Lodi. I think the crowd wanted to see him. So it was good to just see him in wrestling action. I think Lodi does a wonderful job of selling I think nobody thought that he had any chance of winning, but I think he's at least entertaining enough to give the people what they want, which is obviously, DDP to just run wild on him and give him the diamond cutter. So I think for all intents and purposes, it was an overall entertaining squash match. DDP doesn't need to go up against anybody big. This was just supposed to be for fun. Open up the show with a smile. 2 stars.
We will get our second sign of the night after this, and it says drink at Footers, and then it gives the phone number 467-6427. So naturally, I'm like, we're in Virginia. I want to check this phone number out online to see if maybe this place is still open, if it was an actual place. It turns out it is a bar in Virginia Beach. It is still open, but the number is actually 567-6427. So whoever created the sign got the wrong number. And it's a 4.5 out of 5 stars on Yelp, and it's got 85 reviews. So it looks like it's a great sports bar to maybe go watch WCW Nitro.
Or Thunder, for that matter. And by the way, Footers, you're welcome for the plug. We'll be awaiting the check soon.
That we will. After this, we go to our next match of the night. Jerry Flynn coming out. So, yep, this is a pre-tape show, and he'll be wrestling Mike Enos. So, yep, definitely pre-tape show matchup right here. And the commentary team, discussing the internet, the dirt sheets, everyone, Kyle, is talking about the greatest return match in the history of wrestling. Of course, that is Hogan versus Warrior at Halloween Havoc. I mean, no bigger main event than the return, the sequel, Hogan versus Warrior. So, which is
it's just funny because even as we've been talking about or covering Thunder, I think we've had greatest return match in history with I think Sting versus Hogan, Hogan versus Piper, Outsiders versus Steiners, and it's always the greatest rematch, the greatest return match in the history of our sport. So now this is the 4th one. So thank you, Tony, for your superlatives.
We also find out that Bret Hart apparently turned double-cross Sting. He turned on him. He's a bastard.
I feel like Sting getting double-crossed is like a drink win. I think every single storyline is Sting befriends a bad guy or sees the good in somebody, or it's just like no matter how bad somebody is, they're always buddies with Sting. And then Sting gets shit on by that person at some point.
Is Sting the most forgiving, naive kayfabe wrestler in the history of wrestling?
Which once again is funny just because he only recently, not even a year ago, hardly even 8 months ago at this point, did he become this crow-like Sting where he becomes like I don't trust you anymore. I'm in it. I'm taking care of myself. And then he becomes Tomato Sting 4 months. He literally was the crow Sting for about 4 months. The only thing people don't really understand that as far as him wrestling, as far as him actually being in the ring, we're talking December until about May or June.
So we're talking something to that fact. Yeah, half a year, give or take.
Half a year of him being this iconic character, and really, it's such a footnote still in his career, and yet that's what we remember him as at this point. Even going into today, not so much the Surfer Sting, but it's just funny that even as he has changed his demeanor, he still can't see murder if it's right in front of him.
He's still a good guy. And that leads to our third sign of the night. Normally you see, will you marry me, so-and-so? This sign said, divorce me, Norma. So someone in the Norfolk crowd trying to get a divorce via a sign on Thunder. So I hope it worked out and that they've been happily separated now for 21 years. As for this match, Mike Enos is going to catch Jerry Flynn with a power slam, which the commentary team basically loses their minds over, and it's the first time they've cared about the match at all. Then the crowd finally starts caring about the match, but then you realize they're not actually caring about the match. They're caring about Scott Hall, who is stumbling out from the entrance ramp. He's going to come into the ring. It's going to lead to disqualifications as he is going to attack Jerry Flynn. And then, of course,
so congratulations, Jerry Flynn, on a DQ victory over Mike Enos.
That's right. You thought Mike Enos was going to win this one. He was on a bit of a thunder streak, but nope. Jerry Flynn on the DQ here. Hall's going to basically take them both out. He throws a drink in one of their faces and an outsider's edge. Vincent shows up for God knows why. Jerry Flynn's going to take it
to hold his drink.
Yeah, Jerry Flynn takes an outsider's edge. The crowd is hot and in love with Scott Hall, who's supposed to be a big heel interrupting this match. But because it's two people they don't give a shit about, the crowd is actually pumped for Scott Hall. He, of course, is going to get on the microphone, cut a big survey, and this crowd is 110% Wolfpack country. They go nuts when he talks about the Wolfpack. I got to say, we shit on the production crew for most of Thunder because it's usually really bad. I thought they did a great job of showing good signs, relevant signs, good crowd shots, good reaction shots during all this. So I thought it was a really well done here. So kudos to the production team here. And maybe part of that's because they were pre-taped. I don't know. Either way, well done. Hall, of course, is going to call Kevin Nash the big goof. So I think we can add that to the list of the big something or another that is not that mean of a cut down. And then, of course, he's talking about his match against Nash and says basically, if you want to fight me, it's going to be on my terms. And that's pretty much his promo. Kyle, all you had to note about his promo is that his long hair in the front was really long.
Yeah, I mean, I like the promo. Don't get me wrong. I just, I figured that you would, basically have everything you needed from it. There was nothing really to, decrypt or anything like that. But all I know is that when he went through that camera and looked right at it, like that one hair that he always has kind of like in the front of his face was, I would say, a good solid inch and a half below his chin. And I'm just thinking to myself, God damn, he has long hair.
Yes, he does.
Like deceptively long hair.
After that promo, we can move into our next match of the night. Canyon back in front of this Norfolk crowd. This time going to be wrestling Riggs. He cuts his quick, Canyon promo to begin the match. And then Riggs is going to start out with a quick attack here, and he hits him with a great drop kick. Scotty Riggs has a great drop kick. It's not a Randy Orton drop kick, but it's a good drop kick. It's great. We do get a 7-count punch before Canyon interrupts it, like the heel he is, not letting us get our 10 count. Canyon is going to drop a top rope famouser at one point. And then Canyon's going to lock on a sleeper hold. And the crowd starts going nuts and looking towards the ramp. So I thought somebody was going to come out. But nobody did, so I don't know what they were looking at. We do see our fourth sign of the night during this match. It's going to say, I wrestle nude. So good news there. Canyon's going to go back up for that top rope famouser a second time. That's going to be reversed into a kind of a powerbomb move. But then Canyon is ultimately going to win with the flatliner and a solid 3 count. Clean victory for Canyon here. I gave it 2.5 stars. I thought it was a good back and forth match. Told a good story. Canyon needed to win this match. But I mean, even at one point he was selling his arm because Riggs was working the arm. And honestly, I think one of the better matches we've seen on Thunder in a while.
Yeah, I agree. I gave this also 2.5 stars. Just overall a fun match. It's good to see Riggs in the position of being the face that's going to lose. Because when you have a heel that is going to lose, it just feels like the heel just gets squashed, or we just didn't see enough matches where he might get a couple shots in, but he ultimately is going to lose, and we know it. I think you and I had an idea that Canyon was going to come out on top in this match. But they definitely showcased Riggs, and that was what I very much appreciated. You let both of those guys look good, and it told a decent story for what little story there was. So yeah, Riggs looked good, and Canyon with a clean win. Can't argue with either one.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. Like, I wanted to talk about this. Like, Scotty Riggs, I think, is a really underrated wrestler. Probably because he spent a lot of his career as Riggs in the Flock, which was just awful. As the American Males with Buff, I thought they were a great tag team. But when he went to the Flock, it kind of killed him. But he's a very talented wrestler.
Well, once again, when you make something like the Flock, you already have like put yourself in a position where you're in a cage where you can't go any higher than the leader. And if the leader is not the world champion, Raven, no offense to Raven, I think he's an underrated performer, borderline a very good performer. But once again, if Raven is kind of just doing his thing, and furthering. I feel like we always talk about Raven furthers other people's storylines than his own or the Flock's, and that's problematic for anybody in the Flock because it's kind of like a wolf pack. Like the alpha eats first. So if Raven's not eating, then no one from the Flock's going to eat either.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I guess I would probably say that his tenure during the Flock is probably his most known of his career because of the timing and stuff like that.
As far as eyes on television, yes.
I just think it's unfortunate because I do think I think he was an underutilized talent.
Well, at least we got Kidman out of it, But that's one of those things. Like that could have been Riggs too. Riggs could have came out and been like a TV champion or something like that. I don't see Riggs going any higher than something like that. But it was good to see that we have some talent that comes out of it.
I agree with you there, but I don't know if Riggs had a personality or not because as Riggs in the Flock, he doesn't talk, and as the American males, like you can only get so far as a stripper.
Well, as the American males too, like, we've seen a little bit of the American males. It just always seemed like Marcus Bagwell felt like the star on the show, and regardless. They were both good together, but you can kind of tell that if
he was going to be the Marty Jannetty in that.
Yes, exactly.
After this, we do get a Raven promo, and where Raven's kind of sitting in some quiet area of the arena, and he basically tells Goldberg that Goldberg is going to feel his pain. After this, we move to our Wrath match of the night. This time, he's going to be squashing Cyclope.
I like how you call it the Wrath match of the night.
And of course, Cyclope is a cruiserweight. Wrath is not. So, naturally, if this were Disco Inferno, Wrath would be disqualified here, but it's not. So Cyclope is going to get squashed, as you can imagine. But we got a couple of things to discuss in this match. Not as far as the match. That was a meltdown win for 3. Cyclope does a lot of jumping jacks on the way to the ring. I don't know if that's the way to get pumped up to wrestle Wrath or what, but that's what he's going to do.
I mean, you got to wake up on the right side of the bed to get ready for Wrath. So I don't blame him.
And the commentary team, of course, lets us know that Wrath has been undefeated since his return to WCW, and then they're going to talk more about this Warrior Hogan deal, and that Warrior has captured Hogan's #1 night as Lee starts to talk chess with everybody. And if there's one thing, if you thought Lee was dry and boring before, just wait till he starts bringing in chess metaphors, and it really could put you to sleep.
I agree, and I just kind of said there, like, Lee, what are you doing, man? Like, I think what's funny is that we have all these bullet points of things they talk about. I mean, they also talked about, like, who's on the bottom of the totem pole of life, which I was actually hoping that's what you were going to call me, the man who's on the bottom of the totem pole of life. Where they say like Hogan, Steiner, Buff, and Hart are on the bottom of the totem pole of life.
It's Pond Scum first. Don't forget Pond Scum.
Oh, sorry, yes,
and then
Pond
they're
Scum.
below there. And actually, at one point, he says the Steiners, and then they have to call him out. Like he goes, "Well, I didn't mean Rick. I just meant Scott Steiner or Buff Bagwell."
Because Buff is a Steiner now. But yeah, what I think is kind of funny is that the fact that this match that went as quickly as it could, that they were able to go through all of these bullet points in such a short amount of time during a Wrath squash.
Yeah, and you know what's funny about all this? So I just looked it up because I was very curious. I don't remember Wrath or Adam Bomb holding titles. Here he is dominating. Without looking, do you think he ever won a title in WCW?
I thought he won a tag title.
He does, twice. Do you know who his tag partner is?
I mean, he won it like later, not as Wrath though. I think he won it as like his real name. Or something like that, or some by a name with somebody like in 2000 or 2001. I just don't remember who it was.
I think that's when he goes to they call him. It looks like Brian Clark, and he forms the tag team Chronic with Bryan Adams.
That's right. It is Bryan Adams. Yep, you're right.
So that is something. But as Wrath and as Adam Bomb, where he dominated as both characters, never wins a title. Just thought that was interesting. As for the match, I don't know if I rated it or not here, but if I don't think I did, star and three quarters. Yeah. The crowd is hot for the meltdown. It is over. Bryan Adams could take it could learn a thing or two about a good finisher. but I did prefer his squash match last week to this one.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I think a standard Wrath squash is a star and 3/4. But I think, once again,
I would argue a standard Wrath squash is like almost a 2-star match because he is far more talented than like Goldberg in the ring.
Well, no, sure, but I think I also got to take a look at who's in the match. I think Cyclope takes down a 1/4 star. No offense to Cyclope, but you got to have a guy in the ring that's going to also just make Wrath look like $1 million. And Cyclope did okay, but I don't think he did enough for Wrath other than take the meltdown well. I think he helped take the meltdown decently. I think that was the only thing that Cyclope did. I don't think he really. I don't know. I wasn't as much of a believer of the unstoppable killing machine that is Wrath in comparison to other weeks we've seen him with other enhancement talent.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. After the match, we do get that Chucky laughter. It's very quick as they're cutting to commercial. When we come back, we get our Saturday night promo of the week. We know that Stevie Ray and DDP will be there, as well as a Horseman interview. And then we move to our first title match of the night. The Cruiserweight title is on the line as Kidman's going to be defending it against Chavo Guerrero. And we'll get our 5th sign of the night, La Parka is my dad. Which reminded me, we haven't seen La Parka in a while. So, kind of miss that. One of my favorite moments of this match is Tenay, of course, is here to call all the luchador and the Lucha Libre moves. And I forget exactly what the move's called, but he calls it something, and Heenan calls it the Italian ham, which Tenay then corrects as prosciutto.
Oh, you're talking about the pescata.
Pescata, there you go. Yeah.
Yep.
Chavo actually dominated a lot of this match. Unfortunately, the crowd didn't give a shit about it, and neither did commentary as they continue to talk about Warrior versus Hogan. Chavo's going to lock on the old camel clutch, which Tenay lets us know is a reference to, a callback to his grandfather. There was a great, that superplex that Chavo delivers to Kidman, where he superplex but tosses him across the ring at the same time.
I thought he was going to land on the rope on the other side.
Yeah, that was amazing. Kidman is going to win this with a shooting star press. I gave the match 2 stars, and I thought they gave it a lot of time. And I thought the match was all right, but I think for me, is the commentary and crowd didn't give a shit, and for that I only gave it 2. Where I could see you disagreed with me on this.
Oh, I absolutely. You're basically saying this match was as good as a good Wrath squash match. Like, come on, man, you got a little more respect for this match than what it is. I understand that this is not. We've seen better. I get that. I will give you that we have seen, and we will see, hopefully, better cruiserweight matches. This is no, Dragon Rey Mysterio 3.5-star match. I give that to you. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I think Norfolk, Virginia just doesn't really yet know, except for the guy with the sign, really kind of has embraced Kidman as a babyface. And Chavo's a weirdo. He's an entertaining, but he's not anyone to cheer for. And he was wrestling as the heel sort of in this match. So it was that kind of booking might be a little weird. I think the booking is just weird because Chavo's been on a 3-match losing streak, and all of a sudden he's got a cruiserweight title match. So that was the only thing that I thought was kind of weird about this whole thing.
Rick Fuller's been on a entire career losing match, and he gets a world title match against Goldberg. So let's not put
for the record. I don't think we ever confirmed whether or not that was for sure a world title match. But I think we just like to think
I personally confirmed it with myself. So.
Exactly. But no, as far as the actual mechanics of the match and just both these guys are great technicians. As well, they can do high flying stuff, but they are wonderful mat wrestlers, and no messed up spots. They had a couple nice, over the top, kind of springboard plancha type moves, the pescata or the prosciutto or whatever Heenan wanted to call it. And I just think that from beginning to end, it wasn't like a match where it was just big hit, almost pin. Where I think we're used to seeing that with Rey Mysterio and Ultimo Dragon going at it, where it's you think, oh, that's got to be it. Oh, that's got to be it. Oh, that's got to be it. And you're always holy shit, they keep kicking out of what looks like finishers. This wasn't like that kind of feel. And I don't think you're going to get that feel very often on a Thunder crowd. If these two were wrestling at a pay-per-view with a pay-per-view crowd, I think you would have just gave this a much higher rating because I think the crowd would have been. So I gave it 3 stars. And the reason why I give it that is because I think it was a near flawless technical match in a but still with enough of the high flying that gives it the stank of a cruiserweight match. But both these guys, I totally disagree with the fact that you said in here that it seemed like that neither of them really cared. I think they went out there and entertained as well as they could with what they were given.
I didn't think they didn't care. I think the crowd and commentary didn't care. No, them in the ring, they did fine. I just think it just fell flat everywhere else.
I'll go with that, but I still think Chavo did a wonderful job conducting the match because, like you said, Chavo was basically in control and of most of the offense, and Kidman played the face in peril, then makes the comeback. Like I said, a lot of good high spots. Really no mess ups. I don't think either one of us really mentioned anything that they screwed up on. It is a shame. I understand that, the commentary and the crowd wasn't really in love with this match, but I think if they were, I would have given this an even higher rating than a 3-star match.
I would have given it a higher rating than 2. At best, I'm going to give it a 2.25 star. You might have convinced me to bump it up a little bit, but I still preferred the Canyon Scotty Riggs match to this one. I was just more invested into that one.
See, with that one, I was more pleasantly surprised, where I feel like this match, they are capable of giving you a 3 to 4 star match, and they delivered maybe not a 4-star, but I think that they delivered a 3. And I think I expected good work from both of them, for this match, regardless. So I think you kind of that difference between expectation versus reality, and I think we got what we expected from Chavo and Kidman. We didn't get what we expected from Riggs with Canyon, and we were pleasantly surprised.
Well, I can tell you what you did not expect, and that was a good match from Lenny Lane and Van Hammer, which is our next matchup here. Van Hammer's full peace, love, and hippiness and all this. They're going to use this match to basically promote DDP versus Goldberg. Of course, remember, Goldberg is defending the title tonight against Raven, but they don't seem to care about that. Tony's going to wonder why Lenny Lane is going to taunt here when he's got losing records, and he never understands why all these losers taunt. While we had an amazing superplex in the last match where Kidman basically got tossed halfway across the ring, we had one of the slowest superplexes in this match. Van Hammer's going to win with a sidewalk slam move, which he calls the flashback. I gave this a star and 3/4. It was. So
you're telling me that this match here was a 1/4 star worse than Kidman and Chavo's match? Is that what you're trying to throw at me?
I told you I bumped it up to 2.25 star, but yes.
Okay. All right, I'm glad I'm doing justice for that match. I guess.
Just know Van Hammer, Kidman, and Riggs almost won, so the flock has really been doing well this tonight.
No,
if you throw Canyon in there, Canyon won too. It's the night for the flock is on fire, or the former flock, so to speak. This could bode well for Raven in that main event.
Absolutely. I did give this a star and 3/4, but my star and 3/4 I think is more accurate than your bullshit system this week, I believe. I think that flashback's kind of like an Alabama slam, like where he kind of just like picks him up and just kind of like ragdoll throws him back down. Kind of like in a snap. It's okay. It's an okay move, but my God, did the crowd not even really like pop for it? I don't think they knew what to expect. He does what I thought was actually a pretty good
super for Van Hammer.
Sure, but I looked at he actually had a pretty cool he kind of had like a stalling, kind of like holding superplex, like a strong man, like a British bulldog who kind of like holds somebody up in the air for a long time. He kind of did that with that superplex.
Very slow, yeah.
It was slow on purpose. I think he picked him up to kind of show off his strength, and then it kind of held him up there. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. You don't really see too many because you need your balance. So the fact that he actually did that was like, all right, I will give Dude Love Hammer a little bit of kudos for that particular move. But then he follows that up with picks him up and just throws him back down and then pins him. Come on, man. You went from oh wow, that was actually a pretty cool move to he just picks him up and just kind of ragdoll throws him, and it kind of ruined it for me. But yeah, star and 3/4.
His whole gimmick ruins it for me, but that's beside the point. Speaking of the Flock and Raven, we follow this up with a Raven promo. This time he's like he's sitting in a staircase. He talks about how raindrops taste like tears. Truly, like a angsty teenager right here. And he says no one truly brings it to Goldberg, and only Saturn and himself are the only two to give Goldberg, a real fight. And I can't say I disagree with that assessment. But
I don't disagree with the Saturn fight. The Saturn match is still probably, and you said it too, probably one of his best matches that Goldberg's ever had.
It's easily his best probably to date right now. But we're going to be coming up on a good one here in a couple weeks.
That is true. Yeah, that is true.
After this, we get our Iceman D. Malenko Eyes of Ice t-shirt.
And holy shit, was I not ready for it. That came out of nowhere.
Nowhere at all. I do think the WWE Network cuts off the part with like the ordering information. So unfortunately, if you were going to tune into Thunder 34 to get the 1-800 number, the website, or the P.O. box to send your check to, you're not going to have that. So you'll have to check eBay for any Eyes of Ice t-shirts. After this, we get our next match of the night. Damien is in action as he'll be wrestling the maybe Cruiserweight Disco Inferno. Tenay, though, is going to let us know that this match is going to be okay because it's not a Cruiserweight match like the previous one Disco Inferno was disqualified for, which makes no fucking sense to me. I don't get it. Why was one match considered
unless
a Cruiserweight?
Damien's not a Cruiserweight. That's the only thing I can think of. Damien's got a little heft to him, all right?
I don't think that's why he said it, though. I think he was like, Disco can wrestle okay in this match because we didn't declare Cruiserweight beforehand. It's like Raven's rules or something like that. But it doesn't. I don't get it. We do get our sixth sign of the night that says Brett the Other Nugget, which of course is a play on Bret Hart and of course the Nugget Owen Hart from the DX skit with the Nation. So very clever, Norfolk. Damien is going to do the perfect Disco Inferno impression, Kyle.
I already gifted it.
As he does the middle rope dance, followed by the missed, double axe handle elbow smash.
So perfect.
It is as perfect as Disco can do. And then Disco actually hits the move, which was not very Disco-like. So I feel like Damien played a better Disco Inferno than Disco did in this match. Disco is going to win with his jumping pile driver, which is apparently his new finisher. I gotta say, I'm a fan of the Chartbuster, but I guess he's relinquished that to Stone Cold, and for that, 1 3/4.
I gave this 2 stars. No real issue with the match. I actually thought it was decently paced, and both guys were entertaining. Even Damien, I actually kind of liked what he was doing, and I think it's no matter what, if you're in a match with Disco Inferno and you don't have your own actual personality, the default thing to do is to mock Disco Inferno. From the Steve Armstrongs to the Damiens out there, it's an easy ploy. It's probably a cheap pop to make fun of Disco Inferno.
To do that, yeah. Whenever you got a dancing opponent, you just dance like them mockingly.
Yep. So I think obviously I'm not saying 2 stars because I thought this match was one for the Hall of Fame, but I think overall I think the match was entertaining. No real mess ups, and Disco's been on kind of a roll. He's beaten Chavo Guerrero. I think now I've been kind of looking at the Nitro results too. 3 weeks in a row he has beaten. That's which is why I was saying, why is Chavo Guerrero getting a cruiserweight title match? Even if I understand that maybe he's a cruiserweight and right now Disco isn't. And they said, like, well, we'll give Chavo a chance because he lost to this guy 3 times that we found out wasn't one. Like, well, then give someone else a shot who doesn't have a losing record the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you there, but that's WCW logic for you. After this, we get Stevie Ray in action, accompanied to the ring by Vincent.
Wait a minute, he's not the main event?
No, unfortunately he is not, as he'll be wrestling Conan. Naturally, Conan things will be said before the match gets started up. And Conan surprised me with the beginning of this match. He opens up with his somersault clothesline, right to get the match going. And they made a comment how Stevie Ray is much larger and much heavier. I'll give him larger, but I'm not sure he's much heavier than Conan.
Conan's got a lot of center of gravity. Let's put it that way. He
does. This match had a lot of rest holds. My God, I felt like it was a constant sleeper back and forth, submission back and forth. Conan is going to deliver one of the worst face smashers in the history of face smashers. Part of this might be Stevie Ray as he lands with his knees first, which today is going to sell it by saying he may have hurt his knee more than his face on that one. Naturally, now that Stevie Ray and Vincent are out here, that's going to lead to Vincent distracting Stevie Ray with the slapjack, disqualification. I gave this a 1.5 stars. This was a terrible match. Throw in the DQ finish that was you could see a mile away, and this is to me is like just an awful match, just terrible.
With that said, 2 stars. I thought Conan actually looked really good. And
I think he looked really good for the first minute, and then after that it was terrible.
Well, once again, I think it's he kind of like came out the gate, and I'm like, holy shit, Conan, where has this been for the past since I've been watching you? And
it was like he like blew his load right at the beginning, and
he did. There was a lot of premature there, but I think the one thing plus I gave it 2 stars also because I had to give Conan credit for taking the slapjack and not having to take the stretcher job like Mongo had to. So he's a little more durable to hard leather than our boy Mongo. But no, I think like all jokes aside, and we can agree to disagree. And I'm not saying that this is a fantastic match. Don't get me wrong. I think I just gave this more credit because it wasn't. I've seen worse Stevie Ray matches that I've given a 1.5 stars and 1 3/4 for, and I've seen worse Conan matches that I've given a 1 stars and 3/4 for. And so I feel like today, you know what? Give him give him that extra long fry and then the bag of fries. You know what I mean? Just give him a little something. They'll pay it forward. 2 stars.
You're a kind and generous God, my friend. After the match, Vincent and Stevie Ray are going to continue their beatdown on Conan. This is going to bring out Nash for the save. Nash is going to jackknife Vincent like he doesn't give a fuck about Vincent. He doesn't because he drops him pretty much right on his arm.
Dude, I saw that, and the first thing I thought was like, dude, Vincent's out with a that's got to dislocate something.
Yeah, that was he just looked like so half-assed with that jackknife attempt there. This is going to lead to Scott Hall coming out. He's got a drink in his hand. He's changed his clothing from earlier tonight. Now he's rocking an NWO t-shirt. He's going to taunt him. Kevin Nash is kind of going to taunt him. Eventually, Hall is just going to kind of wave him goodbye and leave. And Mike Tenay is going to just remind us that those two were signed for their match at Halloween Havoc. And after this, we get pyro going off. And I wanted to look to see if they used the same pyro cut from last week or if they, in fact, shot off these pyros twice in one night here in Norfolk. And out of nowhere, Michael Buffer. Who would have thought we'd have Michael Buffer on a pre-taped episode of Thunder?
Well, I mean, we have seen him a couple times on Thunder, and we've always like,
this
oh,
is
cool.
His second time, but
this
yeah,
at least the second time. I thought he's been on 2 world title matches, and I think 1 NWO versus NWO.
I only remember him once before, but maybe you're right. But it caught me off guard, and I'm like, okay, we got a lot of time left. Until I saw Michael Buffer, and then the introduction started. And of course, we opened up in this match with Raven and Goldberg with DDP's introduction as DDP's,
which was bullshit. Michael Buffer introducing and now making his way to the commentary table. Nobody in the crowd gives a shit, or probably even really noticed that he was there. Obviously, they're not going to hear him. They saw him come out. He does his little self high five, and then goes over to the table, and it's like, all right, well. Moving on. And I thought the same thing. There was 12 minutes, 14 minutes left in this show. And I'm like, all right, they might actually, this match might actually breathe a little. And then the moment I saw Michael Buffer, I'm like, oh God, there's 8 minutes.
Yeah. So DDP comes out. He lets us know it's Raven's rules. DDP, now that he's on the microphone, is going to do his best 1995 Monday Night Raw Jerry Lawler impression as he's going to respond and talk over every single thing that happens through the introductions and everything.
I hated DDP on commentary.
It was rough.
Absolutely hate it. Dude, the guy, if there wasn't anybody asking him any questions, he would just make up his own thing for a moment. Or if someone does ask him a question, instead of giving an answer and it's kind of like if you ask a question that's either yes or no, you don't say yes or no. You kind of you're telling a story. It's like you don't go into the middle of the ring and someone asks you a question like, what are your thoughts on Goldberg? Then you talk for 3 minutes. He was asked about do you have a strategy, or is there anything that you think is going to work against Goldberg? He's like, well, I guess we'll find out Halloween Havoc. and then it's like a pause, and then you hear like Toad's like, well, all right. It's like that happened like 3 or 4 times throughout this whole thing, and it was just like, man, like DDP you don't need a headset, man. You don't need it.
Yeah, it was rough. And then naturally, of course, with DDP in this, you got to assume now for sure that's the last nail in Raven's coffin of a chance at winning this match, because the guy who's facing a Halloween Havoc is out here talking about his match against Goldberg.
Wouldn't you think you'd rather fight Raven, though? I would always think to myself, like, if I'm DDP and all I'm thinking about is winning the world title, I know he's got to know.
To be fair, commentary team does ask him that question. Like, wouldn't you rather face him? And then they said, there's part of you that wants to be the one to take down Goldberg. And then, like you said, he said, I gots to know. As for this, the match, we eventually get to it, but I got to mention Goldberg is going to come out of a different locker than he came out of at Norfolk match last week that he was against Canyon. So I thought for sure they were just going to recycle the same security entrance as last week, and that would have been amazing. But I went back and looked, and it was a different one. So kudos to you, WCW, to at least know that he should come out of a different locker room. He dominates this match early, shows his strength. Eventually, Raven's going to take him to the outside, kind of throw him into different ring posts and stairs. Eventually, they're going to roll him out onto a table and hold him. Raven's going to get in the ring, jump over the top. Goldberg's going to move. Raven's going to splash through the table.
How ridiculous is that spot when Canyon is there and his only job is to hold Goldberg?
To hold him down, yeah. Meanwhile, DDP is going to call Ernie Ladd, is going to mix up Ernie Ladd and Ernest Cat Miller, which just goes to show you even how even worse he was on commentary. Goldberg is going to spear DDP, but the ref is moved in the way, so Goldberg's going to spear the referee and DDP. This brings
Raven.
Canyon.
I think you can say DDP.
I keep saying DDP. He's going to spear Raven and the referee. Canyon's going to come in. He's going to take a chair to Goldberg. Then Goldberg's going to take an even flow, so it's like, oh my God, maybe this is going to be it. But that brings DDP to the ring. That gives who's going to give a diamond cutter to Canyon. Raven's going to go for a second even flow, but that's going to get blocked. That's going to lead to a jackhammer. The ref, who was speared, if you recall, Rick Fuller was speared a couple weeks ago, which led to the referee to check on him to see how he was doing. This referee took a spear and is immediately back in maybe a minute and a half time to count the 3 count. Goldberg wins. He's still undefeated. He's still the champ, and he's still going to be wrestling DDP at Halloween Havoc. Man, that was a shocker. All that said, I gave it 2.25 stars because I thought this was by far one of the more entertaining Goldberg matches. Given everything that was going on, I enjoyed it. It wasn't groundbreaking. It's a Thunder match that we knew he was going to win, but damn it, I was entertained.
I gave this 2.5, and the reason why I say 2.5 is because this is the type of thing that I think really makes a Goldberg match look pretty good. Is that there's a lot of chaos and a lot of other things, a lot of shenanigans going on in the match. We're not looking into a Goldberg match to see a feat of mat technician specialists. So the fact that we're also furthering the storyline of DDP, he gets himself involved in this match. Kane's in the match. You got that big table spot. I don't think anyone thought that Goldberg was in trouble, but Goldberg, towards the beginning, as they were kind of doing the Ravens rules and, kind of taking the fight outside, Raven definitely looked strong, looked like he was in control. Is not something we normally see in any match that Goldberg is in, where it looks like Goldberg is actually looking like he's getting the fight being brought to him. So everybody was involved. There was maybe some points where the crowd was like, "Oh my God, is Raven really going to get away with this because he's using Raven's rules?" Obviously, us having hindsight, the moment that DDP took, put a headset on, oh, there goes Raven's fucking chances. But I think at the time, even though I'm pretty sure you're not going to just promote DDP and Goldberg the entire time and then give the belt to Raven, that's just ridiculous. But I do really honestly believe that this was probably one of the more entertaining matches. I think the storyline was cool. The ref bump was good. I just think that it's a refreshing change of scenery for a Goldberg match. So for that, I also gave points for the the creative freedom that I think that they actually gave this match, and I think DDP helped with that as well.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. That said, that was the show. You heard what I said. I thought for a pre-tape show, it was above average as far as pre-taped go. But that said, it wasn't a good Thunder. It was an okay Thunder, but it was a weird Thunder. The matches were all over the place. Michael Buffer was there. But for the most part, I felt like we watched a big push for the Halloween Havoc, especially Nash and Hall and, a little Hogan Warrior talk, but Nash and Hall and DDP Goldberg. And, I can't ask for much more out of a pre-taped Thunder than that. So I'll say it's an okay Thunder. What'd you think?
I think it was an above average Thunder, but my problem with this Thunder isn't what we saw; it's what we didn't get at all from a Thunder show. Which I know we've said lately that they're kind of moving away from it a little bit, but there's something annoying about talking about what happened on Nitro and not having anything to share of it. So we're talking about they kept on talking about how Bret Hart, backstab Sting. Would have loved to see I can't believe I'm saying this. I would have loved to see stills of at least some of that action. So we don't have anything from that. We had not a single solitary interview in this entire show. Nothing at ringside.
It is kind of crazy,
nothing at the entranceway. Nothing. That's to me the craziest thing that there is. This was a 100% wrestling show, which is something that you would usually see on like a kickoff show. Before a pay-per-view where you have a couple of dark matches, a couple of matches don't matter. But the fact that almost everything that was being told in the confines of either a match or like the post-match shenanigans, which I'm not against. I'm not saying, once again, I said at the beginning, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. It was just something that I have yet to see or am not used to seeing watching a Thunder show, is that there's usually when we see the tape shows, that's usually when you wheel out Mean Gene behind a bunch of metal piping, talking to the Giant or somebody a couple times. So it was one of those things where every bit of storyline driven was either done by the commentary or was done by the actual in-ring action. Not saying I'm against it. However, I would have appreciated a little bit better context in some of the things they were talking about. Once again, we don't watch Nitro on the show. Like I said, maybe that's the formula that's broken in the way that we're doing this. But it definitely, if something as big, I think, as Bret Hart, double-crossing Sting, I believe that does set them up for a match at Halloween Havoc as well. Really, when you look at this card, man, as much as if you actually read the card, if I recall everything in the card, this is a fantastic card. On paper, obviously, we know what happens with Hogan and Warrior, and I think that ultimately probably that's what people remember. It doesn't. You can have a good movie, but
there's a couple things they remember about that and the fact that you don't see the main event because they run out of time.
Right, they cut the feed. But when you look at this, I mean, God damn, and I know we're still 3 weeks out, we still don't know the whole lineup, but the Steiners, Hall and Nash, Hogan and Warrior, Goldberg, DDP, all of this is what I would love to see in a pay-per-view. And they've said, Bischoff has said many times that even though Starrcade is usually their WrestleMania, Halloween Havoc is really the one that it seems like that's their big show.
Oh yeah, Halloween Havoc has always been has been a big show for them. Definitely, it's one of their better shows. And Starrcade's always been promoted as their WrestleMania, but really Halloween Havoc is probably the one that tends to be the better show.
Like I said, as far as what's headlining it, the match quality and the reading it out loud, Halloween Havoc seems to be the one that everybody wants to have their almost like the end of feuds or something like that, or when something really hits that crescendo, that's Halloween Havoc. Whereas
you've had a Steiners building for 7 months now, so
right, exactly. And then once again, this whole Hogan Warrior thing, let's just pretend that we never knew how that match would end. And then you have somebody like DDP who's over as hell against another guy who's even more over. Although I will say, if I remember correctly, I think the crowd was more cheering for DDP than Goldberg during that match. But I think ultimately, I think both sides enjoyed the match. no matter what camp you were in. But it's this whole Halloween Havoc '98 will be remembered as being one of the biggest debacles. But it had nothing to do with the fact that if you were to look at who's on the ticket, this looked like this could have been one for the ages.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, I think Hogan Warrior, like you said, leaves it in a bad taste. But let's hold off till November, I suppose, till we actually really break down what happened at Halloween Havoc. And for the time being, just be excited and be ready for next week, because that is our show. If you haven't yet liked or subscribed or reviewed our show, please go do that on whatever your listening device is. We really appreciate it. Or, give us a follow at Thundercraps on Twitter. We love interacting with you guys, posting GIFs, pictures, comments about the shows we're reviewing, the shows that, are upcoming, all that stuff. So, and you can always go to thundercraps.com for all of our previous episodes. And that said, go check out Thunder 35. That's the October 8th, 1998 edition as we continue to push forward towards Halloween Havoc. We'll have to see what is in store for us next week, because we know we're not in Norfolk, Kyle, so we're going to have a live show. That should be exciting. For Kyle Hoagland, I am Josh Kaiser, and we'll see you next time on the Thunder Craps podcast.
We are eyes of icingly out of time. See ya.